Zacharti. Good morning, everyone. Welcome, or good afternoon, actually. Okay, we'll just wait a minute or so. I think we can get going. Okay. So, hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. If you don't know, my name is Dan Rosette. I am the manager of community relations and Israel engagement at Jewish Federation in the heart of New Jersey. And I'm very happy that you're all with us today. My position mainly deals with anti-Semitism and a little bit of connecting our community to Israel. But sometimes my two hats overlap. And while we're not going to talk about anti-Semitism today, part of the job of the Jewish Community Relations Council, which I manage, is to also combat anti-Israel type activity in the community and in the state. And anti-Israel activity also means combating fake news. And one of the reasons why we wanted this program to take place is to present the truth, facts. And what you'll hear today from Tzachi, who we'll introduce in a moment, is what it's like for Israelis who live in the south, in the Gaza envelope area or near the Gaza border, what it's like to live there, how to maintain normalcy under a constant threat from a very fierce enemy across the border. And then you'll have knowledge, and knowledge is power, and that's what I believe. And then hopefully, this will be another little chapter in our Israel education. So just 2 seconds of logistics. We will have time for Q&A. So you're welcome to put all your questions in the chat. And if you don't, and you think of something while we're doing the Q&A, you can just, raise your hand either virtually with the raise hand function, or just say, hey, I have a question, and we'll call out. And please keep yourselves on mute so that we can hear everything properly. That's it on my end. I'm very happy to introduce Yael Shafrir. Yael is our Jewish agency emissary who is in Israel at the moment. We communicate remotely, and she serves our community remotely. And she's awesome, and I'm going to pass it over to her so she can talk 2 minutes about herself and her connection to the South and to Tzachi. Yael, all yours.
Hi, everyone. So as Don said, I'm working here on behalf of the Jewish Agency. I'm a virtual shlicha, which means I'm working only virtually on programming, connecting you guys to Israel. And I'm very honored to do that. Before starting my online shlichut, I worked as a shlicha in Washington, D.C. for 2 years. And on my first year, I got a new family. I worked with Tzachi and Orna. Tzachi was my head of Mishlachat, of the delegation of DC, and the Shaliach in the DC Federation in Greater Washington. So I'm very honored to bring him today to our conversation and introduce him to all of you. I also, 2 years ago, when I came back to Israel, I moved to the south, to Beersheba. It's not the Gaza Strip, but it is a city that is in the south and is on the news a lot because of situations similar to Tzachi's story. So I would love to share as well if you have any questions for me in Beersheba, but I will pass the torch to Tzachi, and I'm grateful you're here. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, Yael and Dan. Shalom to everybody. My name is Tzachi. This is like really new situation for me to Zoom my conversation about my life here on the border with Gaza, but we'll try to do it as the best we can.
Hear it from outside, I don't know.
Hi, Karen. All right, cool. If you can open your camera so at least I can see your lovely face, will be great. If not, that's fine. So my name is Tzachi, and I live in Kibbutz Erez. I live here with my wife. Her name is Ona, and my two beautiful children, Oz and Bareket. Oz is strength in English, and Bareket is emerald, but together is Oz and Emerald City. It's not a good reason why we gave them their name. It's actually Oz. He was very small when he was born, and he had to do some tests when we want to give him like a very strong name. It was Oz, and we thought it would be a nice name to a pilot, but I'm not sure he's gonna go this road. And Bareket is actually, it's the stone that represents the Levi tribe in the Choshen. And that's the reason we gave the daughter Bareket. Both of them graduate the Jewish ceremony of Bar Mitzvah and Bat Mitzvah this year. We did Bar Mitzvah and Bat Mitzvah in the same year, in a gap of a few months. And now they graduate. We can say Baruch Shepatrani, and they can do whatever they want. And I'm free, both of us, Erna and me. So where is Kibbutz Erez? Just to give a little bit of orientation. I will share my screen. I hope you can see. So I guess you're all familiar with the map of Israel. Usually it's look, I guess, like this, but it's nice to see it this way. And when you go south, this is Tel Aviv. Can you see my marker? Can you see my? Yes, okay. So this is Tel Aviv, and you go south to Ashdod and Ashkelon. Boom, you get into the Gaza Strip. And at the edge of the Gaza Strip, you will find the Kibbutz Erez right here. So approximately about a mile from the border, this is where we live. Today, this morning, I took this opportunity to go outside and to take a few pictures. And through those pictures, I will try to tell the story. So let's start with the first picture. You see the picture or you see the map? Sorry. You see the map.
We see the map.
So I need to switch. Sorry, I'm technology. I'm usually good with technology, but when it comes to action, all right. So there we go. So today I stand at the top hill of our kibbutz, which is approximately 500 yards from my house. And I took this picture. This picture represents what we call living on the border. As you know, there are a few settlements, and I'm just for clarification, when I say settlements, doesn't mean the settlements over the green line, what we call the settlements 67, 66 borders. Settlements in general, it's an התיישבות. It's a place where people are settling in. And for any kind of resolution and international law, we are definitely in the border of Israel. So I'm not getting into the political question of what is a settlement, but for us, a settlement in our area, in the what we call Gaza envelope, all the settlements are legit and are part of the international border. As you know, after the withdrawal from disengagement from Gaza in 2005, since then we are sitting on the border, on the international border. By the way, I didn't say it before, but please feel free to ask questions, to say comments. It's fine. I'm Israeli. You're allowed to interrupt in Israeli. We not get offended at all. We actually get challenges. So from here, you can see very interesting, and I'm sorry for the low resolution, but you see, this is what we call the Erez crossing. Erez crossing is the one of two places where people and merchandise are able to go in and out from Gaza Strip, believe it or not, but there is a traffic between Gaza and Israel, and the traffic from Erez is mainly or only people who are working in Israel go through the Erez crossing and working in Israel. There is another crossing which is down south, about 40 kilometers south. This is where merchandise are coming mainly into Gaza. There's almost none merchandise coming from Gaza outside, but mainly into Gaza, food, supplies, and other stuff. Erez crossing is just on the border. This is the fence. The fence is what you see above the ground, but also, if not mainly, what you cannot see is underneath the ground. It's very deep down, a few meters, very long. And this is what we call the obstacles in order to block the tunnels that are coming from Gaza, which is very interesting because I arrived to this area almost 10, 12 years ago. My first interaction with this area in terms of security was when I spent some time in Sderot, which is a city next very close to us. And suddenly I heard Adom, Adom, something like this, red, red. So you need to understand where I grew up in the north, when you hear someone calling Adom, usually it's the salesman that go around with his nice watermelon and cry and shouting, sweet and red, come and buy, it's sweet and red. You need to come and buy, this is a watermelon, it's beautiful and it's sweet and red. And I heard Adom and I said, beautiful, it's summer, all I want is the sweet and red watermelon. And it took me 10 seconds to understand that I terribly wrong, because I felt the horrible sound of a rocket falling down in Sderot and shaking the earth. I stopped for a second and I said, okay, wait, I just experienced my first rocket ever. And I experienced my first Tzeva Adom, code red alarm. And what's going on here? And then I walk outside and people continue their life. 5 seconds after, 10 seconds after, they go out and life continue almost like it's never happened. Then I realized something very interesting and very important that will following me all my life. This is what we call resilience. This is what we call how we keep routine under attack, under a long-lasting situation of stress and unable to control the situation, which you think about it, you're unable to control it, as well as under stress of terror attack immediately and every time. Since then, we learn how to react to the Tzeva Adom, how to manage it, and also, unfortunately, how to grow kids under the conditions of Tzeva Adom. Think about it. There are kids here who grew up and today they are already parents and they have their own kids that they don't know any other reality rather than Tzeva Adom, the code red in this area. So we said there is an obstacle and we said there is a border here and a crossing. And over here, over the hill, you can see already the first building of Gaza, which is, as I said before, about 1.5 miles from our home. By the way, just a little bit of history. These buildings over here were built originally for the officers of the, not the Hamas, sorry, the Ashaf. If you remember when back that time, Israel and the Palestinian Authority has a joint force. So that was an officer that worked with the Israeli officers and said, let's build them a nice houses and they will be very close to the border and they can communicate and work together. Unfortunately, the reality has been changed. Hamas take over the Gaza Strip and today this is one of the major, if not mainly, area where they launched their rockets to Israel. If I will take a little bit of myself to the right, wait a second. The same place, I'm standing in the same place where I stood right now. Do you see the picture or we stayed in the same picture?
Same picture.
So I need to do this and then I need to do, by the way, if you have question, this is a good time. No question, unless I don't see. Dan, help me here because I don't see everybody. I'm on the screen.
I will, don't worry.
Okay. So I stood in the same place, remember the fence, blah, blah, blah. And I just take something like 45 degree, maybe 90 degree to the right. Okay. What I see here, it's very interesting. What I see here is a power plant. This is the power plant of Ashkelon. The power plant of Ashkelon is located in the southern side of the city of Ashkelon, which is approximately 7 kilometers from the border, which will be 4 miles, I guess, 4 miles from the border. And the reason it's located over there, it's actually because of the wind. You know, they want to put the chimney away from the city in order to not pollute the air. Today, by the way, you see the white smoke. It's not pollution. It's mainly a gas, natural gas. All the power plants in Israel move to work in natural gas, propane, because we have a lot of that apparently now in Israel. So it's not really pollution. But interesting enough, this is one of the places that they like to shoot rockets on. It's very big, it's easy to target, and they're shooting rockets. So you say, oh, they're smart because they want to shoot the power plant of the southern region of Israel in order to, challenge the Israelis when they don't have a power. Surprisingly enough, this is the same power plant that supplied electricity to the Gaza Strip. Because we are sending, or there's agreement of power and water and supplies going to Gaza, and we're still, even under escalations, we are still, providing those kind of needs to the Gaza Strip. People might ask, so why you doing that? Why you don't shut down the electricity? Why you don't shut down the crossing of Erez in order to not providing them any needs or not giving them the opportunity to come to Israel? Or why you're not shutting down the Kerem Shalom, which is the south crossing where you giving them supplies? The direct answer will be that today in Gaza, the unemployment rate is about 60%. 60%. The average salary in Gaza will be around 400, maybe 500 shekel, which is $150 a month. The average salary in Israel will be 7,000 shekel. So for one worker to get into Israel and get the average salary will bring a prosperity for almost the whole family in Gaza. And we know that. We know that there is a lot of pressure in Gaza. We know that there is a situation, unbearable situation over there in Gaza. And I'm not getting into the question of even who is responsible for this, but the fact is that Israel is still maintaining a routine of allowing this in and out, and actually it was increased in the few months. Was increased. The number of people that today crossing the Erez crossing is almost doubled during the last year, and probably will be increased soon, is mainly because we understand that if we give them some kind of prosperity, probably there is more pressure going on to Hamas not to create an escalation. Guys, questions so far? Oh, very good. It's either I'm very good or none. 1 second. So I told Dan asked me to talk today about Tseva Adom and what is the color red for me. So when you say Darom Adom, the south in red, people may think you're talking about the war that I just described. You know, when I Google Darom Adom, you probably will find rockets and stuff like this. But for a lot of Israelis, Darom Adom will probably look like this. 1 second, find it. Darom Adom. And this is where I can do a show off of my beautiful daughter. Aha! So this is Bareket. This is Darom Adom. 1 month a year, around February. This is where it's getting a little bit more cold and rainy. The area of the southern region where I live is covered by a beautiful flowers, red flower, kalaniot, which I never remember how it's called in English. Dan, do you remember?
I have to look.
Yes.
It's a difficult name to pronounce.
It is, it
I'll
is, but it's very famous. It's very famous in Israel. It's called kalanit, and it's red and it's beautiful. It's look like poppy seeds, but it's not. So it's legit and it's fine. And it's covered everything. And then everybody will come from the north and the south and the center of Israel to come and see those beautiful flowers. And for us, this is how we want to remember, or this is how we want that Darom Adom will remain in the mind of the people. By the way, usually when Darom Adom festival is happen, the people living in the south find themselves traveling away from the traffic because it's really unbearable. And the same area that we see as a beautiful area can switch in a second into a war zone. When it's happened a war zone today, we usually take the kids and the family out. Now, you might say why you are leaving your house. Are you scared? So why are you staying there? People may call us refugees when that we leave our house. But we find out that we need to call it a little bit different. First of all, we want to make sure that the kids and the family will be safe. It's more important. It's the first rule of every parents, everyone. You want them to be safe. And in order to do that, you need to go a little bit back, not to stay in the war zone. Something else is to let whoever need to do whatever they need to do, the army, the government, the security people, everybody, to give them the space to do whatever they need to do, not to jeopardize us or the kids. So they can do moves that usually they couldn't do in the past. So I work in the municipality here in our region, and part of my job on a daily basis is actually running a place like a JCC. I'm the director of the JCC, but on emergency days, on emergency events, my position is actually to run and control the moving of the family from one place to a different place. And how we do it, we actually have a few locations around Israel. Usually it's either other kibbutzim or hotels or places that we know already that can absorb a whole community, and we move the whole community together. We're not sending people by themselves to different locations in Israel, but we are relocating the whole community together to a new place. Moving the whole community, it's not an easy task. You need to move the elderly, you need to move the kids, you need to move the dogs and the cats and everybody. But you're not moving only people, you move on also the structure. So if it used to be during school days, then the school will relocate. The teacher will come to the new place and run the schools. Kindergarten, all the education system will keep running, but in the new place. This and everybody who live in our area know that if we're getting into an escalation, I'm not talking about a rocket here and there, and we'll talk about it in a second, but if we're coming in a situation to an escalation, a day, 2 days, 3 days or more, they know they need to move, and they know they're doing whatever they used to do here, but they do it over there. I didn't talk about balloons, right? Let's talk about balloons. Look how called dichotomy, right? How you said it's dichotomic. It's also in English.
Dichotomy,
right?
Yeah.
Dichotomy, yes. So it's I found out that most of the Hebrew words, if you say it with the right accent, it sounds like American. But yeah, the dichotomia, how you can see something great and beautiful like flower, and in the same place, beautiful red color can become in horrible days. The same with balloons. When I say balloons, probably the first thing that's come to your head is happy birthday or occasion or something lovely and beautiful. For us, the people who live here in the South, when you see balloon in the air, you know that something is really terrible is going to happen, because either they're launching something inside the balloon, or the balloon is attached to a rocket and they're using the helium to take the balloon away into the Israel territory, or they just connected some mop into and light it with fire, and then we get a whole field now will be on fire, and it will be ruin our harvest and the chita and the weeds that we are having here, or even can hurt a house. This is balloon for the people who living here. The same go with kites. And I guess maybe you heard a little bit about the news. You suddenly, they use different material. They're not launching rockets. They're using kites attached to either a rocket or something that with fire, and they're sending over to Israel and let the wind do the work. And it's coming to an area where it can be jeopardized the people who are living here. And see how dichotomics and how things are actually can be two-sided to each one of the stories. The same go with the next picture, and I'll show you. So this is, this is. So this is a bus station for the kids to go for the school, because we are living in the regional council. People commute to the school. It's not the school from first grade till 12th grade in our regional one. And people are going in the morning to the bus station, waiting for the yellow bus. It is yellow. And we're waiting for the yellow bus to take the kids to their school. But if I just take a little bit to the right, the same place where I stand now, and I take it to the right, you will find, you will see it different. It will look like this, all right? You see, you see here, this is where the station I just took the picture, remember? And then you see this. This is a bus station for the kids. So for us, it looks like a nice bus station because it's decorated nice. But actually what you're seeing now, it's a bomb shelter. Okay, this is a solid concrete. And the kids know that if there is a Tzeva Adom, they need to run inside here, and they get inside this area, which is protected. The same go here. They run very fast here, and they go inside behind this wall over here, and they are protected. And tell me one kid in America that go on a bus station from first grade that need to stand in a bus station, and his routine is to know where to run when he hears the sound. This is something that we teach our kids from kindergarten. If you look, and unfortunately we cannot do a real walking into this kibbutz where I live, but if you walk in the kibbutz, almost every, I believe, between 50 meters to 100 meters at the top, or 300 feet, you will find something like this. You will find a solid concrete standing. So you know when you walk in the chatzer, in the yard of the kibbutz, you know where they're located, and you know you can run there. Why you need to have so many? You need to have so many because for us, the people who live on the border, we have less than 10 seconds to find a shelter once we hear the launching of the bomb. Usually people say once we hear the Tzeva Adom, but today we hear the launch even before the Tzeva Adom is actually starting to yell. So once we hear the launch, we know we need to run, we need to hide, we need to find ourselves a shelter and to wait for the boom, and then we can go back to routine. Because once again, if you remember my first experience, when I saw everybody hiding, then back to routine. You try not to let the reality, and it's funny how human being is been adapted to a reality, but the reality is reality, and your life need to continue. Dan, let me know if I forgot anything, right?
No, so far so good.
So far, so good. So I started a little bit about myself, but I didn't hear the question, so why you live there? Maybe because you don't want to ask this question, but
That
normally,
was one of my questions.
so normally when I take the people and describe the reality and describe the situation, so they said, so why are you staying here? My first question is because it's the most beautiful place in Israel, 95% of the time. 95% of the time, this is the most beautiful place in Israel. Second, I'm a Zionist. I am. It's not a curse to say Zionism today. I think that we need to stay where we can, to live where we can. This is our country. This is our space. As I said before, I'm living in the legitimate borders of Israel by any law. I didn't say it before, but I am 13th generation in Israel, 500 years. My family here, 500 years. So who I am to say I'm not living here? And I did shlichut many times in my life, and I could live in America very, very easy and normal life. But we choose to go back and settled in. And now we are in the process of building our house here. And we are in a process of being a member of a kibbutz, chaver, which is an upgrade situation for us. And the reason is that we really believe that this is where we need to stay. And the third, maybe it's the most important one, the kids are happy. I'm just now sitting in my at my son's room, sleeping room, because the internet here is the best because he's playing on his computer. He's now with his friends, probably somewhere around the kibbutz, playing around. My daughter now is in a different kibbutz, celebrating bat mitzvah for her friend. And my wife is in the living room. And actually, we are very relaxed and happy they're not at home. And not very much worried about the situation. And even more so because we believe that they are in a good company. They have good friends. They have good life here. They can walk. They usually at the weekends they go outside, and we go to sleep even before they're coming back, and we go to sleep very late. And we feel very safe when they go outside. I don't believe I can feel the same safetiness or happiness where my kids have friends like this if I were living in a city. Not that I'm judging any city, but for us living in a community that all together know and experience and struggling and building up that relationship in the community in order to build the resilience, we are making effort to put time, money, and investment in the bonding of the community. So we're taking the community not for granted. We are building up the community because we know that this is how we're keeping the resilience stronger. So for me, it's only advantage because the place always maintaining a high maintenance of the relationship between the people, because by the end of the day, when it's come and push come to shove, when happens, we are dependent on each other. So we need to depend on each other also on a normal days, like now, like today. And hopefully it will stay like this. I'm going to leave the last 15 minutes for questions. Sorry that I took more time than I needed.
No, I think it was great. Even I learned some things, and I'm from Israel mostly, for most of my life at least. So thank you for that. If anyone has questions, now's the time. But I'll start us off because I have a three-part question for you. So first of all, a lot of what I do in my job is dealing with world opinion about what's going on in southern Israel, especially during times of conflict. So my question to you as a resident, and also from your put on your shaliach hat for a minute also, what's your opinion about how the world or what the world thinks about the Hamas Israel conflict, especially when there are flare-ups? What's your message to the world, and what can we do in your opinion to help?
So thanks, it's a great question. If you were asking me this question a year ago, probably the answer will be different. I think something happened in the past year, maybe because of our agreement with Dubai, the Israel agreement with Dubai and other agreement that was signed recently. And also with Turkey, by the way, we're renewing our relationship with Turkey. So I'm not getting into too much politics, but it is important to understand the conflict in general between Israel and the Palestinian is not a conflict between Israel and the Palestinian. This is something that it's probably a 4 hours lecture. But the conflict between Israel and the Palestinian is internal conflict between Arabs and themselves, who is ruling the Arab world. And unfortunately, the Palestinian is a pawn on this overall game between the Arabs themselves, who is controlling the Muslim world and the Arab world. And it's interesting to see the relationship of Egypt, where Egypt wants to take control, and where Dubai is putting herself today in leading the Arab world. But I'm just sorry if I overwhelmed you now with this, but back to your question. So I think until a year ago, the Hamas fought very smartly in the media, and they were the first to launch images from the battlefield in order to demoralize the Israel and bash the Israel opinion around the world. And they do it very successfully, by the way. Part of the reason that the Jewish Agency is sending shlichim all over the world is because we believe that something in our what we call telling the story is not working right. And we saw it mainly in the college and the universities, where they're controlling today the mindset of the people. We not care about their mindset of the people, of the student. It's not necessarily that we care about this. We care about what's remained in their mind when they are now 20 years after, where now they are CEOs of very important companies that need to do business with Israel. This is what we scared more. Okay, so if a college, a student is thinking badly about Israel, it's not changing the world. But if the same economic student will go now to be a CEO, and he will have to make a decision if to invest money in Israel and a company, Israeli company, and high-tech, and so, and he will remember from the time in the college what people told him, Israel is bad, Israel is evil, blah, 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 he will make decision badly. Okay, so this is what we can do, is tell the story, is to come and visit, first of all. I'm inviting you all to come and visit and see and experience it firsthand, to be educated, to read, and not to be fed by one-sided news. I usually read right and left, and try to cross information, but to be educated, to learn. and to have their own opinion, and then to talk with people. This is what we love to do the most. We meet people, we go to the supermarket, we have friends, we sit for a coffee, and we talk. You know, yesterday I heard in a lecture of a crazy guy from Israel, name is Sake, like the Japanese drink, and he told me about the southern region in Israel and Darom Adom. All right, let's talk about it. And you know, it's actually, there is a life there. And the reality is more complicated than red and or black and white, or red and blue, or whatever you want to call it. But it's more complicated. It's a variety of colors. And never believe that it's one-sided. It's a variety of colors.
Excellent answer, thank you. And just for general knowledge for all of you, another reason why learning about what happens on the Israel-Gaza border is important is also to combat anti-Semitism, by the way, because if you don't know, the largest spike in anti-Semitism in 2021 was in May during the Israel-Hamas conflict. If I'm not mistaken, it increased by 300% in those, what was it, 10 days, maybe less, I forget. So this is extremely relevant to our life here as well. And that's just a little side note. I do have another question, but I would love a question from any of you. So I'll pause for a few seconds to see if anybody has a question. And if not, I'll go ahead myself. But... Yes, sir.
So, Shalom. How do people on the kibbutz make a living? Is it agriculture? Are there industry there in the area?
Great question. I don't have your name, but this is a great question. So so most of the kibbutzim today, and also my kibbutz, is privatized. What does it mean? It means that each one make his own salary and is responsible for his own income. Part of the salary, we still, in Erez, okay, specifically in our kibbutz, we still want to remain what we call a safety network for everybody. There why we are put percentage of the salary into a common pool to support those who are unable to support themselves at this moment. So this is like a safety net that we are decided that this is important for us. Why? Because we still want to remain kind of arvut adadit. I don't know how to translate it, like
collective responsibility. Collective responsibility,
but in Hebrew it sounds more arvut adadit. It's like I vouch for you. I'm responsible for you. So most of the people will work outside of the kibbutz, like myself. I work in the regional council. My wife, she's working as a teacher. Mainly people who work outside, but yet the kibbutz itself still have a few what we call traditional industry area. We have a large, you know what, I'm going to go back to this picture because it's important to see. We have a large agricultural fields. Wait a second. So here, all this, do you remember? This is the border, right? If you remember, all this green belong to the kibbutz. This is an agriculture that belong to the kibbutz. We grow avocado and oranges and jojoba and watermelon and a lot of things. This is one industry that we are very proud of. Another industry that it's big for Erez, for the kibbutz, is the plastic industry. We are creating a plastic sheets. That this is the material that people, it's used to cover, like it's very solid, the plastic polyethylene. We use it, actually the American military use it for covering stuff, covered stuff. And also it's used to, you can have like a water tank built inside, like very special materials. Anyway, it's sold all over the world. And beside that, people just work outside. Just, you know, today with the privatization of the kibbutzim, you just work outside. By the way, this field you see over here, and this is another conversation, by the way, what is the future? One of the projects that Erez is part of it, and also the regional council is part of it, is to build, this is the Erez crossing. Remember, this is where people are crossing to work in Israel. So there is a plan that will be established very soon. It's actually a program that already in the process, and part of it is we already have actually fund for it. Is that in this area over here, this is the crossing here. Erez will give some of the land, and it's going to be built a joint industry area for Israelis and Palestinians. So people from Palestine will cross the border and work here in an industry. And there is, if you remember, we talked about Ashkelon. It's very close by. There is a train station in Ashkelon, and it's going to be a train that's coming from here to the train station in Ashkelon, and there is a port also in Ashkelon. So the idea is to build the future of coexistence, although it's insane to talk about coexistence in the reality that we are living in. But this is already a progress in action. Actually, Tony Blair, what a name dropping, ouch. Tony Blair is part of this process, and the municipality and Israel government already fund a few millions for this. And this is the future, if you ask me. You know what, I plan to show this picture at the last, but I'll show you now. You know, I could, this is, before we lived in Erez, we lived in Faraza, which is another kibbutz that's really on the border as well. This is my daughter. Remember her from the bat mitzvah? So this is where she was about 4 years old, 4 years old. What's beautiful about here is everything that you see here, this is Gaza Strip. This is Gaza Strip. This is a mile away from the soccer field where she's standing. This is Gaza Strip. I could, and this is my belief, I could take my beautiful daughter every day when she go to the soccer field and when she go to the playground and tell her, you see here, bad people, evil. Oh my God, don't even think about what's going on. They're terrible, blah, blah, blah. And I could, and this is what I do. You see here, they're also bad people, but they're also people and normal people. And one day, I hope that one day we will be able to go there and eat hummus together. I hope that this day will come. Until then, I need to prepare myself for the worst and still living in the reality where I live, understanding that it's much more complicated than bad and good.
Tzachi, there's a question. Thank you, Tzachi. There's a question from Faith, and her question is the Israeli government still offering incentives to move to the south? And if yes, is the program working?
Yes, and I hope it's still working. Yes, yes, there is a, but I gave, you know, okay. So first of all, there is incentive. The incentive is in tax reduction. We pay less tax. It's up to a certain amount, up to a gap, up to a top or something, I don't remember exactly, like 2,000 shekel a month or something like this. But to be honest, none of the people that are coming here and stay because of the tax reduction. So they might come here and stay for a year, but the reality here is that people that stay here want to stay here regardless to the benefits that we get for the government. So it is encouraging you to move. I'm not sure this is the reason people stay. Okay, so that's how we will. And I'll be honest that in the past 10 years, even so in the last 5 years, the living here has become more expensive. It's more difficult to find a house here. And the housing here, the prices of the housing here are today around 2 million shekel, which is high. So it's not go to the south, you will find a cheap house and stay there. No. It's expensive. We're building our house here now today. And it's gonna cost us around 2 million shekel. It's insane. It's insane. It's not because all over Israel is insane, but if I'll go to Be'er Sheva, for example, I think I will find a house $1.5 million. But here in this area, people are coming. You know, the last but not least picture is, you remember the first picture that I took over Gaza? So now I'll give you the picture of 180 degree. I just turned, you know, I turned 90 degree. You saw the chimneys of the power plant, right? But when I turn another 90 degree and instead in the same place, you will see this one. What do you see here? This is the kibbutz. This is the kibbutz. I stand in the same place. Behind me is Gaza. In front of me is the kibbutz. And if I will take you to the tour here, probably my end conversation will be after we talked about Gaza, and we talked about the power plant. Now move, turn around and look here, because this is what I want you to remember. This is the kibbutz, the life. And if I could give you the sound, it will be birds and dogs and playing children and the humming sound of the people in the pool and the construction sound of a bulldozer building the next houses where, please God, I'm going to live in 2 years' time.
Thank you, Tzachi. We have one more question. I see a hand up for the from the Levitt family.
What damage is being done by the balloons, the fire balloons that are coming over?
So the main damage is for the agricultural fields, and that can be really devastating because crops take time to grow, and the trees, there's a few hundreds of acres that have been destroyed already by the balloons and the kites, and it's terrible to see, because if you work in agriculture, you know that you work the land in the beginning, and then you seed the plants, and then you're waiting for them to grow, and then you're waiting for them to harvest, and then just before harvesting time, the fire consumes everything. This is terrible. And also, when you have fire, the field and the kibbutz and the houses are very close by. Everything is close by. So, you know, the agricultural field, it's not something that you drive to. It's something you just cross the fence of the kibbutz and start working the field. And that can be also dangerous to the house itself. But we have every kibbutz have a small fire department because of that. And there is like a 4x4 truck and with a big trailer with water, and they are on duty, and they are on emergency call all the time. And that's one of the teams that we have on duty and emergency. We have several teams that always on emergency calls if needed. We remaining it as a routine. But if needed, they go outside immediately and in order to take the fire down.
Thank you, Tzachi. Okay, I want to be mindful of everybody's time. It's 1 o'clock. Tzachi, toda rabba. Thank you so much for giving us your time. What can I say? Chazak ve'ematz, keep at it, keep going. We outside of Israel will be thinking of you. And I personally will come visit you the next time I'm in Israel. I hope the others will as well. Yael, toda rabba. Thank you for arranging this and everything else you've done for us this year so far. And thank you to all of you for taking time out of your day to be with us. Mamash,
Thank you guys for coming. Thank you. I really appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a great rest of the Sunday. That's
Bye-bye.
it won't rain too much. Bye guys. Thank you.